Welcome to the ArmaniTalks YouTube channel, the #1 YouTube channel for you to level up your communication skills, learn the art of public speaking, social skills, and personal branding to take your message to the world. Today's episode, we're going to be talking about how to unlearn. There's an art to it. This is counterintuitive because if you think about it, we have been taught that learning is important. You gotta learn because this is a rough world out there. So you gotta make sure you're educated. And most of our lives, we're just learning. In formal education, it's just a process of going to school and learning. So when you first hear the phrase, you gotta unlearn, it doesn't sound like something that seems intuitive. It doesn't feel like it flows. But here's the thing. In the communication skills world, what you're going to realize is that there's different personalities. And it's not just different personalities out there, it's also different personalities in here. Ask yourself, are you the same person that you were 15 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, as you are now? If so, that's a red flag. That means you're not leveling up. And if you're not the same person, then you can acknowledge that your personality has evolved. It's changed. And as it's changing, you'll probably notice that you may think, man, I can never believe that I used to think something like that when I was in high school. Did you ever notice that? Did you ever notice those old Facebook posts that pop up on your newsfeed out of nowhere? And you see yourself typing in a very cringe-like way? You're thinking, damn, I used to type like that? Damn, man, I can't believe it. I'm kind of embarrassed for my younger self. Well, you don't do that anymore. You've evolved. And we automatically assume that we learned new things, but at times we have to realize that we've been unlearning as well, whether we're aware of it or not. Unlearning in the street smarts world is more important than learning. Now, if you can combine the two, that's even better, where you can learn, unlearn, relearn. That's the common mantra out there. But you can't do this mantra if you have no clue that you can systematize unlearning. And that's what we're going to be talking about in this video. Because unlearning is a painful process. It's not an easy process at all. It's something that's extremely difficult and it requires skill, practice, and patience. And those are going to be the topics that I'm going to be talking about in today's video. If you're ready, if you're excited, make sure you drop a like right on below and let's level up. Unlearning. Why is it more difficult than learning? Because with learning, you're doing it with your head, and unlearning, you're doing it with your heart. What this means is that unlearning, there's a lot of emotions involved because your identity is at stake. And this can be for good situations and bad situations as well. There's individuals who have identified their mentality, their entity as a victim. There's been a tremendous amount of times in their life where things haven't worked out. Things were bad. They got the short end of the stick. And at this point, when others tell them, look, fam, you can do it. You can level up at any point. It just starts with a decision. They look at this person like they're crazy. Look at this guy, so optimistic, so cheerful. What's he so cheerful about? Weirdo. And the victim gets further ingrained in that identity. It's because they have so much data to back up why they are a victim. And let me just tell you a quick little story. For me, for the longest time, the idea of public speaking was never a thing. When I used to even think about public speaking, the ego would be like, whoa, 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 what are you doing? The public speaking world is reserved for a certain group of people. You don't belong there. Quit thinking that. Actually, don't think that at all. Think of you failing a speech. And that's what the whole process was about. So for me to go into Toastmasters and be comfortable in the club took a lot of time. It took a lot of sessions for me to start finally feeling in the groove. And the whole unlearning process was a process of reconfiguring my identity of the guy that wasn't supposed to give a speech. So this is a case why you have fears in the first place. Conquering a fear is the ultimate form of unlearning. Keep that in mind because we're going to come back to that later on in this video. Unlearning is painful because your ego doesn't like to unlearn. And oftentimes you'll notice when two people are debating, one person is having a very emotional stance. You can tell. Everyone around that person can tell beside this particular person. And the other person is hitting this individual with straight facts, with straight logic. You would think that this person would be changing this person's mind, right? But no, this person is digging their heels even deeper into the ground. They're getting more emotional and they're mistaking it as logic. The reason why is because you are asking this individual to unlearn a whole bunch of concepts that factor into this individual's life. And when you tell someone to do that, their ego is like, nah, fam, no, what are you talking about? This guy right here, this guy hitting you with the logic, he's an enemy. And that's exactly what it goes down to. That's why this person is going to just keep shutting you down. And that's another reason why you have to pick your battles if you're debating someone, because other individuals may not want to unlearn. You may not want to unlearn. So just understand it's part of the process. So why then? Why should you even bother unlearning if it's such a painful process that challenges the ego, that has a lot of fear associated with it, that has a lot of strong emotions? Why not just keep learning new stuff? The reason why is because as you evolve into different stages in your life, you notice that new beliefs are needed. Neuroplasticity, which sounds like a big word, is where your brain is seen to be plastic. It's always able to reconfigure new neural pathways in the brain, which means that you no longer have to be a fixed mentality, a fixed personality. You need to be someone that is always learning new ways of doing certain tasks. And when you learn new ways of doing certain tasks, what you start realizing is, I can't believe I was doing it like this before. This way is so much more effective. And this is when you unlearn the past and update something new. So to answer the question why you should learn how to unlearn is because there are certain beliefs that may have worked for a certain chapter in your life and it worked perfectly. But later on in the game, you gotta evolve. For me, in terms of public speaking, the whole narrative of the guy that couldn't give a speech, it was comfortable and it was serving a lot of purpose in the early stages. Whenever we were in group projects, we had to choose, hey, who's going to speak up for the group in the class presentations? I'm like, not me. And that would pass off in high school. But by the time that I got into college, we had less group projects, which meant that I needed to learn public speaking, especially in the professional world. So just because this belief worked in this stage does not mean that it's going to work in this stage, and so on. So you need to unlearn because you're always leveling up and certain beliefs need to be updated. All right, so now you understand why unlearning is important. Now the main thing is understanding which beliefs need to be unlearned. Let me give you a tip. One of the beliefs that needs to be unlearned from the beginning, if you have no clue where to start, is to look at your generalities. Where are you making a lot of sweeping statements? All blah, blah, blah suck. All this type of people are bad people. I can never do something like this. Wherever you see generalities, you'll often notice that you're leading a little too much with the emotions. There's not enough nuance in that level of thinking. For me, my younger self was like, Armani, you can never give speeches. It's just not in you. Stop even thinking about it. So if I understand that unlearning is important, I also know that that belief right there is the belief that needs to be unlearned. So for you, before starting this whole process of unlearning, ask yourself, what is it that you need to unlearn? And look, you could list out 10 different things, but we're not going to be working on 10 different things at once. We're going to be working on one thing right now. So now you understand why unlearning is important. You understand where you are going to start your unlearning journey off because you spot the generalities and the sweeping statements. So now you're ready to begin. How are you going to do this? Well, the way that you're going to do this is by first understanding that you right now have the ability to exercise your courage. Remember earlier how I told you, pay attention to the whole fear part, pay attention to the whole courage part? Well, in this section, you have to exercise it. Anytime that you're doing something that the ego doesn't want to do, it automatically equates to courage because you're exercising a new form of thinking. You don't need to conquer this fear at once, immediately. Instead, you can take your time with it. With public speaking, I didn't necessarily conquer the fear until speech number 7, 8, 9, somewhere around that realm. But in the beginning stages, all I had to do was go to a meeting in the first place. So for you, if you have a certain limiting belief where you think all dogs are bad, I know people like that, call them xenophobic, something like that. What you have to do is just pull up a picture of a cute dog from the beginning stages and get your ego warmed up with the understanding that dogs may not necessarily be that bad. You don't have to pet a dog yet. You don't have to own a dog yet. All you need to do is pull up a picture of a cute dog. Next, you could find an article of a person who conquered their fear of dogs. They too were xenophobics like you. They didn't like dogs. So what made them different? Hear their story and then prep your ego a little bit more towards a new realm. When you can do that, you start warming yourself up to unlearning. Now, this is one way to unlearn, where you are conquering a fear. This is something that you are putting intention behind. Other times, you'll notice that unlearning happens for you. Imagine that you are in a corporate job for 30 plus years and you tell your wife, you tell your kids, look, this is my job for the rest of my life. I love this corporate job and I'm going to stay in this corporate job. And then the next day, you get fired. Your whole image starts to shatter. Whether your ego wants to deal with it or not, your boss doesn't care. Your boss just fired you. And this is a case where you unlearn quick. So the two methods to unlearn, one is with intention, where you're exercising your courage muscle, you're warming yourself up to it. And the other way to unlearn is where you have no choice in the matter. Any kind of rock bottom, trauma, you getting fired, that kind of stuff, the unlearning just sort of happens for you. That's why rock bottom is tough in the first place, because you had this certain way of living, this certain belief, and then it just gets questioned. You're just thinking, oh no, man. I mean, I used to think that I was going to be in this job for the rest of my life. I was going to retire in this job, and now I'm fired. And what happens is that you start needing some time to recalibrate. The system within is all out of whack. There's chaos involved. So at times you may lose sleep, you may not be able to eat properly, you may be feeling extra tired. All normal. All side effects of you suddenly unlearning something. So these are the two steps that you need to understand. Now, the final thing you just want to do in order to unlearn quicker is to understand if you did it once, you could do it again. That's why earlier on, I told you not to unlearn 10 different things at once, but just do it once to prove it to yourself that you can do it. If you were someone who was scared of dogs at one point or another, and nowadays you can pet the dog, and who knows, you may even get a dog down the line. I know plenty of people like that. You understand that unlearning is a thing. It's a thing, and you put conscious effort behind it. And if you fall into the other boat where you are the individual that got fired or going through a certain trauma, bounce back. Find ways to level up. Get another job. Start a business. Do something like that. And in this case as well, you prove to yourself, look, a lot of the beliefs that I have right now, it can change instantaneously or gradually. So let me not be so close-minded. Let me level up and learn how to adjust to this. And the final tip that I have for you is to be humble. And being humble, the definition on Google seems very insane. It says to think less of yourself. But when you think about it like that, it's not thinking less of yourself and compared to others, but it's thinking less of yourself and compared to the universe. When you can think like that, you start realizing that it's difficult to be fixed in your ways because you realize that there's so much more that you don't know. Throughout the entire history, up until this point, we only know a fragment of information. There's still so much more to know. If you can allow your brain to understand this, if you can allow your mind to internalize this, being humble is a byproduct, and curiosity seems to just elevate from there. The more curious you are, the more smart you are. The more smart you are, the more open-minded that you are. Not the smart where you're just reciting random bullshit. You are being intelligent in a practical level. So there's a lot of information in this video. Let's do a quick little recap. Unlearning is more difficult than learning because there's emotions involved. Your ego is trying to fight you along the way. But you realize that as you're leveling up, different beliefs need to be updated. If that's the case, then unlearning needs to be a skill set that you can master. Not just dabble in, but you need to be able to master it. All right, so you want to master it. How? Well, if you want to take the intentional route, what you need to do is you need to first figure out which belief you need to unlearn. In situations like this, generalities, things that you make a sweeping generalization on, that right there is your compass of what you need to unlearn. Pick one thing to get started off and just take gradual progress. No need to overcome it overnight, just gradual. So this is one way where there's intention behind unlearning. Other times, the real world will deliver you a big fat L. And this is when you are forced to unlearn. Whether you get fired, whether you get dumped, whether you get money stolen from you by a business partner, whatever. This is one of those cases where it's just going to hit you. And once it hits you, you can either cry about it or you could find ways to absorb it. Your body is going to have a lot of effects in the beginning stages. Soldier through it and keep on leveling up from it. Eventually, you'll prove to yourself that past beliefs can be realigned by you or by the world. In these two cases, you're going to lead with the same exact truth, which is, yes, unlearning is important, but more important is that I am learning to systematize it. It's not something that just randomly happens. I understand the emotions that go into unlearning. Once you reach here and you've conquered one belief that you have successfully unlearned, now you can do it with more other beliefs. The final thing is to make sure that you have an open mind. The more open-minded that you are, the easier it is to unlearn. If you're someone that's fixed in your ways, then unlearning seems like an impossible thing. You probably watched this entire video and you're thinking, what is this guy talking about? He's still talking? Shut the hell up. there's no such thing as unlearning. That's how closed-minded thinkers think. Be open-minded by having a humble attitude. Not humble towards you thinking less of yourself among your peers, but less of yourself regarding the universe. When that's the case, your mind opens up and you become a learning machine that can learn, unlearn, and relearn. For more practical insights into the world of mindset, make sure you check out my book, Level Up Mentality, in the description box right on below. Thank you for joining the ArmaniTalks YouTube channel, and I'll catch you on the next episode.